Morning, everybody. Wanted to take a couple of minutes this morning to talk to you about two snowstorms that are finally coming through. We've had kind of a weird and warm stretch of weather. The pattern's been we've had very much a ridge in the east, which has been giving us lots of warm weather and also certainly some a lot of rain here over the last weekend. Matter of fact, the high pressure system this weekend to our east, you might have really could have called it a Bermuda high, which is something we typically see in the summer. When we get warm in the summer, that's what we normally see. It's very rare at this time of year, but the pattern was what it was, and that's how we ended up with all the weather we've had lately. But that pattern is finally starting to break down some. We're certainly moving towards some troughiness, which means a dip in the jet stream and the eastern half of the United States. And as a result of that, our weather will cool down, and in the transition between the two, we're going to have two storms. The first storm is going to be relatively small, but it will result in some accumulating and probably plowable snow. And then a second storm, which is more moderate, maybe moderate to heavy, that will certainly be plowable snow again on Saturday as well. So I want to take a couple minutes just to show you a couple of the details on that. First off, this map doesn't look as good as it was earlier, but this shows you where our two systems are. We've got our first storm, which is going to come through tomorrow morning, basically, just starting to get going here in the central plains, and then our second storm is way off here, off the map, basically, over the Pacific, just starting to come on shore. So that actually gives you a good idea of how confident we can be in the forecast. This one, the storm that's going to come through tomorrow, we're pretty confident in the forecast at this point. Looks like it's pretty much locked in. The one over the weekend, the models have been very consistent on it, but so it does, and the players are pretty locked in. So there's not a lot of uncertainty, but it's further out in the forecast. So there's still some questions about the second storm. I would say more so than the storm that's going to come through tomorrow. So, just to give you an idea of what that means in terms of temperatures, or why we're looking towards snow finally, and where the cold air is finally with us. Here's a temperature map of North America, and you can see here we are here in the Northeast. Again, the map is not spectacular in terms of being able to see it. Sorry, we're going to work on that kind of stuff. But let me, so you see we're finally getting some cooler air here in the Northeast. It's not exactly cold out there. If you've been out there this morning, it's in the mid-30s, which is by no means cold for this time of day in January. But we do finally have some real cold air. These are minus 20s and 30s below zero over the Canadian plains. Not unusual temperatures for them, but finally some significantly cooler air. That's minus 20s and 30s Celsius. So, but basically some finally colder air, and that is kind of heading in our direction over the weekend. Not that we're going to see minus 20s and 30s. Nothing really that close to that. Next Monday is going to be quite cold, but not that cold. And Friday will be cold, but not nearly that cold too. But so we are finally getting into a chunk of this cold air though, which is going to set the stage for some storms finally. So basically, what's going to happen is that the first storm is going to track from the central plains here, kind of right over the top of us, and start to redevelop off the coast here. And as a result of that, we are going to be snow. We're going to be kind of marginal for snow. There could be a little bit of sleet mixed in, or if precipitation lights up, we might go to drizzle for a little bit, which means I don't think we're actually going to get what would often maybe add up to 4 to 6 inches of snow if it was kind of a light, fluffy snow. But I think it's going to be a little heavier, not heavy enough to cause like tree problems or anything like that. But so I think we're looking at generally 3 to 5 inches of snow for most of you. The higher elevation places and the western-facing slopes will do a little bit better out of that. So maybe a 6-7 inches of snow wouldn't be surprised to see if you're up at Stratton or if you're at Okemo or down at Mount Snow or even Bromley, and even Magic with kind of a southwestern side of Glebe there will do pretty well out of a storm like this. So 6-7 inches at the top of the mountain wouldn't be surprised at all. 3 inches if you're down kind of along the river, and certainly as you head east towards the Connecticut River, your totals will be lesser. If you live in If you're down in like the Newfane area, or you're even further east, if you're in Bellows Falls, or you're down in Brattleboro, you're probably looking at 1 to 3 inches of snow. So a little bit less there. You're going to get shadowed a little bit by the Green Mountains as the precipitation moves west to east. On the west side of the Green Mountains, if you're over in like the Manchester area, probably 3 inches down there as well, and even down into maybe Bennington's a little bit less than that, maybe 2 to 3 inches of snow down that way. But and that should be, like I said, it will be a little sticky, the snow, and roads shouldn't be too bad tomorrow morning, I wouldn't think, because it's been so warm, and the temperatures are going to be kind of marginal. We'll be in the low 30s tomorrow morning, so I don't think it'll stick on the roads real bad to begin with. I mean, it certainly, especially if we get up up the higher elevation, you could start to have some slick spots. You should be aware of that, but I don't think the roads will be too bad tomorrow. Then we get real cold on Friday, and or relatively cold for this time of year. Highs probably only in the teens, and breezy. And then Saturday, our second storm will kind of do similar to this. It's going to develop in this part of the country, and it's going to kind of move up the St. Lawrence River Valley. Not a normal snow track. It is eventually going to redevelop, but it looks like it's going to redevelop kind of late. That's the one question still, exactly where it redevelops. We'll have enough cold air locked in that the precip is going to be basically mostly snow. There's a small chance we get a little sleet mixed in, but I think it's going to be mostly snow here in southern Vermont. However, with the secondary storm not getting going quite as early, at one point the storm looked like it might be a real big snow producer. Now we're looking at more of a moderate to heavy snowstorm. I think 6 inches plus is still pretty likely for us here in southern Vermont, but I think over a foot looks kind of unlikely at this point as well. That's a general 6 to 12. We'll lock that in a bunch much closer as we get towards the actual storm on Saturday. That snow starts sometime. As a matter of fact, let me go to the forecast, and I will give you kind of the highlights. So, 2 storms on tap. The first is light snow. Second is moderate snow. And snow for the first storm starts before dawn tomorrow. So by the time you wake up tomorrow, it will be snowing. Lasts through the morning. We should be wrapped up with it by late morning to noon, certainly at the latest. Look for 3 to 5 inches of snow. There could still be some snow showers in the higher elevations tomorrow afternoon, but most of the accumulating snow is done in the morning. Up to 6 inches for the mountains. Like I said, you could get a little less if you're right along the Connecticut River, if you're over in Springfield, Bellows Falls, Brattleboro, that area. Snow for the second storm comes through Saturday afternoon into the evening, so probably starts sometime mid-afternoon on Saturday and snows through midnight, maybe a little after. It's going to be a relatively quick mover. And I think 6 to 12 inches is a good general for that storm. We'll definitely lock that in more as we get a little bit closer. There's still a couple questions, particularly does any sleet get mixed in, and how much actual precip do we get to fall out of it? There's still a little bit of a question about that. Okay, so it's looking a little more windy. The pattern after that looks maybe not a lot of precip or a lot of storms, but definitely looks cooler. So we are heading into more of a winter pattern, and that should let the ski areas recover. And hopefully we'll get enough snow here that we can get some cross-country skiing, some snowshoeing going again. And hopefully it doesn't get too cold. Doesn't look like any severe cold outbreaks afterwards, but definitely a lot chillier than it's been as we head into the second half of January. All right, I will update you again probably with a text update this evening, and I will go live again tomorrow morning. I'll let you know when I'm going to do that in this evening's update. Hope you have a safe day, and we will talk or see you again soon.